Let's break with tradition and start at the end of this whipsawing episode, which delivers two quick jolts in its closing minutes. The first is Kim's decision to quit both the law and her marriage. Her rationale? That together she and Jimmy are a hazard, both to themselves and to others. A newlywed who is not as rash might have considered less drastic solutions, maybe a week in Bali, a bit of therapy. But Kim is nothing if not unpredictable, and there have been many moments in this show when you are certain she's going to break up with Jimmy only to then see her give him a smooch. What we saw here was the same thing in reverse. If Kim were presenting a legal argument, we would say it started logically enough. Hey, these two do produce some toxic chemistry, but got wacky by the end. She says that she withheld the news from Jimmy that Lalo was alive because she knew what would happen, that Jimmy would protect her, hide with her, and end the plot against Howard. And were that to happen, we break up, as she puts it. Why? Because I was having too much fun, she shouts. Whoa. The implication here is that the scam was so unnervingly delightful and harmful to others that she must quit her co-conspirator, like an alcoholic who keeps crashing the car and swears off booze. That's a guess. It's difficult to fathom the inner life of someone who says, I love you too, but so what? Let's leave aside, for a moment, Jimmy's reaction and focus on a connected question. What will Mike think? Kim has been given instructions to deliver an Academy Award-worthy performance in a real-life documentary called Nothing to See Here, in the aftermath of Howard's murder. And now she has left her job and Jimmy. That will raise exactly the sort of questions Mike didn't want. This is a problem. On to the second jolt. Right after the breakup argument, the episode jumps forward in time to Saul Goodman's louche and extravagant life, which is filled with Xanax, prostitutes, and Roman-influenced, self-mythologizing decor and art, all of it in the comically opulent house that we saw in the opening episode of this season. Is the sudden end of this relationship with Kim supposed to explain this transformation? Lots of people have their hearts broken, some evolve. Very few emerge with entirely different personalities. Perhaps we're to believe that Saul was hiding inside Jimmy and emerged courtesy of the trauma of Kim's departure. Granted, Kim's farewell is quite a trauma. It's just hard to believe that it steered a slightly crooked, often endearing and large-hearted man into total depravity. That said, we know that in the future, Saul will hastily exit Albuquerque when he gains infamy in Breaking Bad and emerge with as a nebbish named Gene Takovic, managing a Cinnabon in Omaha. The writers have already signaled that this character can shift in shape. The less confounding part of this episode comes near the beginning. Gus has been summoned to the south of the border home of Don Eladio, where Don Hector accuses him of killing Lalo and plotting to usurp the cartel. Unruffled, Gus answers this potentially fatal allegation by declaring it too preposterous to dignify with words. Then Eladio and his underling Bolsa make Gus's case on his behalf, and in doing so demonstrate how well Fring has covered his tracks, with an assist from Lalo, who left behind a burned corpse with matching teeth. Hector is left to ring his bell in frantic, fruitless protest, point to Gus, who seems to derive much of the meaning in his life by tormenting his foe. The scene ends with a moment that explains why. Fring stares at the pool, the same place where years ago, Hector shot and killed Max Archaniga, the love of Gus's life. At that moment, Gus was lying next to Max, close enough to watch blood gush into the pool. Gus is haunted by that memory, and when he returns to his home in Albuquerque, we watch him regain his life, his happiness, and his routine. But there are limits. When he visits what appears to be his favorite restaurant, he has a long conversation with a waiter and winophile named David, Reed Diamond, who dazzles Gus with his good looks and tales of vineyard hopping through Europe as a young man. Nobody has ever spoken to Gus for so long, and through David's entire monologue, Gus seems pleasantly rapt. This is smitten Gus, a side of the man we've never seen. Instead of asking for a date, which is what happens in the rom-com version of this interlude, Gus quickly leaves while the waiter is retrieving an even rarer bottle of wine. Fring has either decided he can't get hurt again, or concluded that love isn't for a man in his position. It's a weakness he can't afford because to enemies, loved ones are easy targets. They end up dead or sent on suicide missions to kill other people, like Kim in the previous episode.